Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. I am Ray Dickey from South Carolina CAI, Hudson Valley CAI, and Association Health. Now, we are in several states. We are doing digital risks. This is always an important topic. I think people underestimate how tricky people can be and how easily you could be tricked. Tom, would you agree that people underestimate?
No question. This is one of the most important safety things now that is being discussed in the industry is how much information are you leaking, and then how can adversaries use it against you?
Okay. And if you are here for CEUs, everyone has a question. We also love to have comments and questions. I would do the whole program with comments and questions if I could do it that way. I would love it. So please send in whatever you want to send. I don't use people's names, so I can ask whatever you want me to ask, but don't send me anything too top secret. So with that being said, I'm going to have our panel introduce themselves with who I see first, and that is Whitney.
Hi, I'm Whitney Bostic. I'm in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I am an on-site manager for Ponderosa Management.
And Whitney, you used to live in Nevada or Arizona? Yep.
Mm-hmm. So I managed there for 14 years.
Is it true that it's a dry heat out there?
It's very true. It's like living in an oven.
Okay.
Or a hairdryer.
Next, Dave.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Byrne. I'm the partner in charge of my law firm's community association practice. The firm's name is Ansel Gurman Aaron, and we represent community associations, HOAs, condominiums, co-ops in New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania.
All right. Dave, have you gone to the pound lately? I don't think they call it the pound to pet animals. I know you do that sometimes.
No, they don't call it. They don't call it the pound. That's like they don't call things the insane asylum anymore. No, the pound is now called the shelter. And yes, I have been there recently.
That's very nice. You're very nice to animals.
Got to rescue as many as we can.
Tom.
Yeah, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Landry. I'm a retired agent from the U.S. Secret Service, 25 years of service. I'm currently a consultant for Secure Environment Consultants, helping organizations and clients.
And Tom, you travel all around the country, right?
I do. So not only on my job previously, but also today now in my role, I do travel quite a bit. SEC has me moving around. There's lots of security concerns all over the country. So from all over the place. In fact, overseas, we're doing some overseas activities as well. So yes, all over.
Ooh, that sounds complicated. Overseas.
So, overseas, wow.
Yeah, wow. Dangerous countries? Could you say which country is the most dangerous that you've been to?
In my entire career, or just in?
Let's do entire.
Oof. I mean, that's a good one. So there's, there was some tough. El Salvador was tough when I went down there. That was a tough spot at that period of time. It's my understanding it's doing a lot better now with their crime control. With the old Russia, Mexico, some parts of Mexico, of course, are very dangerous, as most people know. And those are probably the most dangerous spots I've been to.
Okay. I'm glad that you survived.
I went to Iraq and Afghanistan as well, but that was, it was a little bit different circumstances. So, I didn't think it was particularly dangerous for myself at the time.
Could have been. Okay. So I'm just going to go right to the questions, and then I can bounce back to all the slides I have. What are the most common digital risks currently facing board members and community association managers? Whitney, do your boards ever come to you and ask about digital risks, or are they just not worried about it in the slightest?
They come to me all the time and ask about it, especially social media.
Yeah.
And which digital risk do you think, if you may not have one, I didn't tell you the questions in advance, but which one do you think the board would be more susceptible to falling for, as an example, if you can give one?
Well, I know a lot of my boards and board members have gotten in trouble in the past for posting on social media, so I would say that. However, I have been doxxed about 4 times. So as a manager, I would say doxing, but as a board, I would say social media.
Okay, so let's bounce around for a second really quick. Tell me what your doxing experience is, and then maybe that'll explain what doxing is. And if not, I will turn it over to Tom to check it out. So what was your experience with doxing? What happened to you?
Yeah, so I some homeowners found out that they could discover where I lived from the county assessor's website, figured out where I lived, and then they broadcast my address and my cell phone number all over the Facebook community website. And then one of them showed up late one night while my family and I were sleeping and dropped dog poop on the front door.
Okay. Awful.
Yes.
Tom, shocking. Is this
Shocking.
something is this a rare case for Whitney or not
No,
rare?
not rare at all. And I'm sorry that your team is having to suffer through that. But doxing and swatting, right, which is a term that it actually came out of the video game community where online gamers would call the law enforcement officers and report a crime in progress at another person's location, and then law enforcement will respond in an emergency fashion. And people have actually been killed this way. And so that's called swatting, if you haven't heard that one before. But doxing is a real big concern for everyone, not just HOA managers, because people are using that information to I won't say terrorize, because that's kind of maybe a strong loaded word these days, but they're certainly harassing you, right? Whitney, did you feel harassed like when you had that? Certainly,
Sure.
right? It's
Because
an
I have
invasion
small
of
kids at the
privacy.
time, so.
Yeah, it's an invasion of privacy for sure.
Right.
So, well, Whitney, I meant you may have felt all these things, right? So in my notes here, I have doxing involves intimidation. Probably yes, right? A little bit intimidated. Somebody was over at your house. Harassment for sure. I don't know why you would be embarrassed, but it's listed here. You didn't do anything. And do you feel like they were encouraging others to take action against you, Whitney, also?
Yeah, absolutely, because they put my information on their Facebook page. And it was over something so stupid and foolish, but I mean, we know how homeowners get when they don't get what they want. So yeah, very much so.
I cannot imagine anything that would justify it, so that you could have possibly done. Dave, before I go back to Tom on how he can offer some advice on how we can maybe prevent this if we can. Dave, what about the legalities of this? This just sounds really completely not appropriate. And what action could Whitney expect maybe the association or maybe a management company to take?
Yeah, it's interesting because the dynamic is a little different. It should be different with respect to, should be different as to the type of management we're talking about. Are we talking about a direct employee? Or are we talking about an employee of a management company that has a contract with the particular community? If it's the latter, then oftentimes it's the management company that has the legal obligation to protect an employee and deal with these things. And then through connections between the management company and the board, then deal with the contractual issues, like what contractual rights they have vis-a-vis the HOA when there are people that are causing trouble. But the manager's rights will be more directly connected to his or her employment with the management company. If the manager is the employee of the association, then it's the same dynamic, but there's no management company. We have an obligation to protect our employee. We have an obligation to protect our employee from a hostile work environment. These types of things they'll require some action. But if you're an HOA this is one of the reasons probably why HOAs may want to get a management company, because it does create somewhat of a buffer on the employment related side. You have professionals deal with what happens when there's a hostile work environment, as opposed to volunteer board members not necessarily knowing what to do and haven't had the training, the classes, all the stuff the HR people go through to get in this current modern day of our society.
Tom, first question, is this a crime? If you reach out to the local police department, should you reach out to the local police department? And is this a crime? And how realistic would it be to expect any action to be taken?
I would say at the local level, many jurisdictions are adding criminal violations for doxing for the purpose of harassment, intimidation, terrorizing, exactly the points that you were making. At the federal level, there is a new federal statute now for harassment through doxing and the release of information that's private. Now, the problem that I've seen in cases is, okay, in Whitney's case, they went to the county assessor's office and got her address from there. Okay, that's publicly available information. The hurdle you're going to have to get for prosecutors and law enforcement is, okay, this is publicly available information. Was it really harassment? And then can you prove that in a court of law? And I think that's the hurdle you have to get over, from retired law enforcement. No, my job is just to gather the facts. It's the attorneys that will determine whether that reaches the threshold or not. But certainly I would call and I would file a report, because you want to document that activity in the event that it escalates in the future, right? Because in the future, the person that maybe did this to you, Whitney, that person may escalate their behavior. And if there's no record of that, it will be harder then to get law enforcement support in the future. Whereas if you have a nice paper trail saying, hey, I'm showing you, I'm documenting that this person is escalating in their behavior towards me. If you didn't think I met the threshold before, here's the third time this has happened. Now, can we talk about that? And I think that helps build your case from a victim standpoint.
So Whitney, I don't want to put you on the spot, and you definitely don't have to answer, but do you want to share how things turned out? What happened with this scenario?
Yeah, so the management company that I worked for, their attorneys got involved. And then the board attorneys got involved, and the board attorney and our management company attorney talked back and forth. It unfortunately, to Tom's point, didn't go very far, because again, my information's locatable on the assessor's website, as are most people's. So it was a matter of public record at that point. However, the person who took it the step further and came and showed up at my door, we had them on video camera, because we always, since I've been in this industry, my husband just videotapes the daylights out of our home for this reason. And so that person we were able to press criminal charges against, because the board members knew who it was. So their attorney got involved in that way, and then I stepped back and the board pressed criminal charges against the homeowner.
Okay. And did it turn out okay in the end? Did you feel safe at the end of this whole process? Did it work out all right for you?
Yeah, I mean, I did. I ended up getting pulled off the property just because I didn't feel comfortable being on the property anymore. Not because I didn't feel safe. I just felt like, I don't know that I felt like the board didn't necessarily step up as much as I would have liked them to support-wise. But yeah, I mean, I felt supported through the whole thing. And I wasn't afraid to be there. It just was time for me to walk away from that community at that point.
Terrible. Absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
So Tom, we were going in the direction of most common. What do you think is one of the most common digital risks facing board members and community association
facing
managers?
Board members, I think we can break it up into two different categories, right? One is the harassment, intimidation that Whitney just described, right? And then the other one could be criminal in nature, where they're trying to defraud folks by using digital means, right? And so whether that's phishing emails, whether that's opening up credit cards in other people's names, things like that. So those digital risks, so one of two, they're both important, and they're both actually rising in frequency these days. I think I just saw recently that the online digital loss in the United States last year was $20 billion. So that's the market cap of United Airlines, and that's just a fraud that's reported. So you can imagine how big of a problem this is. Frankly, it's probably double that. Really factor in the folks that don't report. They're too embarrassed to report. They don't see any value in it. So it's a multi-billion-dollar problem. That's on the crime side. But on the physical safety side, we're also seeing people using digital social media to harass. Unfortunately, a great example, Whitney, that you went through there. I'm sorry that you had to do that, but that's happening more and more. And many of my clients, the very first thing I will do is red team their social media, and I will go in and see what I can find. And if your social media is not set up properly, if it's not, the privacy settings aren't great, you can get an extreme amount of information from somebody about their life and their pattern of life just by going on there.
Okay. We're getting all over the place, which is okay. I got phishing, I got digital stalking, online harassment. I have slides on all these, audience. So we're definitely no, fine. It's definitely gives me a roadmap here, which I absolutely love. So did you want to pick a most common one, Tom, or is it not really? It's too hard to define.
I would say the most common one is doxing now. That's the most frequently seen now, and it's really designed to intimidate.
Okay. So how do they find people? Whitney just touched upon this a little bit. And let me just make a quick comment too. If you're a board member or a manager, but even a board member, people can put the pieces together really quick. And Tom, I think, is going to agree with me and expand on this easily. You are a big, big target. So Tom, what about that? How do people find out about people?
Yeah, I mean, so there's multiple ways, but the most common we've seen is property tax records, right? That's very easy, county by county. Some are required to be available for everyone to see, and so that might be in Whitney's case, that might be the case there. And if that's the case, you live in a jurisdiction where the property records are very easily obtainable, and then I would consider maybe trying to move your home into some sort of trust where your name is not associated with it. It's a little bit of effort there, but it's great obfuscation. The other way people find out information is data broker websites, right? So for $9.99, I can get almost anything off a data broker for a 1-month trial period. And we've actually seen people use this information in violent attacks. I think maybe you might remember in Minnesota, maybe about a year and a half ago, where some state lawmakers were targeted and assassinated in their homes. And the attacker literally went to a data broker website and pulled down information, and all the elected officials that he could find on data brokers, he went and tried to assassinate them. And the ones that were hidden, he couldn't find them. And so it's really important, and it's used, very, very easily for a very low cost.
So I'm familiar with these sites because we were using them for mailing list confirmation. So basically, I think we would pay $22 a month. And it was terrifying to me, Tom, because I soon discovered I was just looking for address confirmations, right?
Sure.
But I could look up Dave Byrne, find out where he's lived in the past, find out who his relatives are. And let's say Dave has a living grandmother, and let's say she's in her 80s or 90s. I could easily call Dave's grandmother, take a good guess, easy to figure out who she is, and say, hey, Dave's in jail, and I tried to call Dave's brother, Bob, because I have all Bob's information, but
Sure.
Bob, I can't reach him in Arizona, and I couldn't get in touch with Bob's adult child. Tom, it's terrifying. It's all there easily to manipulate someone. And why wouldn't you think, especially if you're an elderly person, that this person does, hey, they know all about Dave. They know his mom. They have phone numbers. It's all there for the taking. Tom,
unfortunately,
can you just press that point with people that it's there?
Yeah. Unfortunately, the 60 and over crowd in America are the most frequently targeted for cyber risk and for criminal risk such as this. Very high trusting part of our society, right? And ultimately they are maybe a little less digital, not digital nativists, so they're a little less up on the modern times, but they are very trusting, and they are, unfortunately. And another piece of the puzzle too, ladies and gentlemen, is, people that are 60 and over often have more resources than someone 25 or under, right? And so the criminals, I don't want to give them any extra credit, but the fact of the matter is that they go where the resources are, right? And that's that crowd.
So Whitney, to no fault of your own, people found out your personal information. You really can't hide what property you own for the most part, unless you do what Tom said and go through all this extra work and make trusts and things like that.
Right.
But Whitney, I think we're kind of stuck. You and me and Dave, I don't know about Tom. A lot of people, we have our information on there. It's on LinkedIn, it's here, it's there.
Yep.
I'd be curious to see if it's even plausible for us to hide our information. What do you think, Whitney? I think it would be extremely difficult.
Yeah, I don't know that it's possible. Especially if we work for a management company. All the board members are going to have our contact information. My committee members have my cell phone number. My board members have my cell phone number. I just think that if you've got some sort of digital footprint, they're going to find you. It doesn't take that much effort to find someone. I'm not the above 60 crowd, but it doesn't take that much effort to find somebody these days. Not this day and age, not with the technology we've got now.
Now, Dave, I don't want to get sidetracked here today, but one of the ways that people use this just on a personal level, not on a board member, manager, business level, is people put their travel plans. I know we hear this all the time. Don't do it. But you put your travel plans on Facebook, somebody's going to break into your house. I even had cases where I've heard where people had a fire and they knew people wouldn't be home and they broke into houses. Dave, do you find that lawyers, you're kind of at risk here too, right? Do you do anything extra to protect your personal information? But I guess you're in the same boat. Not much you can do, right?
Not much you can do, really. Not much you can do. It's rough because I guess something could happen. A lot of lawyers are in adversarial situations, especially in the HOA context, when we are trying to foreclose on someone's house who might be, the victim of a health crisis. I mean, there might be they may see themselves not as a perpetrator, but as a victim of and maybe correctly so in a lot of ways. So we're vulnerable, I guess. But there really isn't much. There really isn't, I guess, really much you can do. Minimize the conflict, minimize the drama
All right.
when you can. Like you don't have to make the nasty social media posts. You don't have to cut a guy off in traffic. I mean, like you try to keep your enemies list to a to a reasonable number. I mean, that's probably the best you can do, at least from my perspective as a regular person.
Tom, maybe we could don't dive deep into, don't put your travel plans and things like that. But one thing I wanted to mention, I'm hoping you could run with it, is even when I do the live stream sometimes, Tom, I'll have to ask a manager usually to take something off the wall, because there behind them are a bunch of not super top secret phone numbers, but you see what direction I'm going with. Could you run with that for me? Because everybody's on Zoom in our industry now, Tom.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Zoom or Teams or whatever it might be. And so again, I think I mentioned the phrase, information leakage before, right? And I think, most of us that are well-intentioned and good people, we really don't think about the stuff that we're leaking and giving out to the world there. But every little shred of information you give out can be used and can be just a puzzle piece for criminals and bad actors to gain information about you. Again, as I say, I'm not much fun at parties because I'm always the negative what if guy, right? But I try and keep it as tight as possible on information you put out there. And both David and Whitney are correct. It's impossible in 2026 to have a public job and be public facing and have zero exposure. But there are some things that you can do to minimize that risk, and I think maybe we'll talk about it here in a second.
Yeah, if you do a lot of Zoom calls, don't have a sheet of paper behind you that has the personal phone numbers of the board, because that's what happens all the time. Yeah. And people will sit there and just go through that stuff for the fun of it. All right, Fraud warning signs. What are some of the warning signs that an email or payment request may be fraudulent? Let's stick with the emails, Tom. Well, let me go through the panel really quick just for the fun of it. Whitney, what do you think is, you must get a lot of spam emails. I do, right?
Yep. A lot of them.
I have found that they've become more sophisticated.
Yes, they have.
Have you?
Oh, yeah. I just got one for a management company the other day, and I was like, I don't even know what this is for. So I sent it straight on to the owners of our company, and they did what they needed to do with it. But I didn't open it at all.
Dave, this isn't fraud, but I think Tom's going to run with this, how AI is impacting things, because now I get emails. People, AI watches my videos. They make a couple of notes what I spoke about, and they send me a personalized email about my last topic, and they want to make some money off me. Pretty scary stuff. AI is getting very, very good at making personal emails. You were aware of that, Dave? Have you run into that at all?
No, but maybe I don't really know AI. To me, my experience, and this we talked about before, my experience with AI is more rudimentary. Like some unit owner is fighting over something and you could tell AI wrote his letter, it's like that kind of thing. I don't know if I'm getting like an email from a potential client, but it's really just an AI bot from Pakistan. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't experienced anything crazy like that as far as I can tell.
All right, Tom, let's go through some of the warning signs, break it up here a little bit so we could break it up. Maybe I could use some of it on social media. Yeah. Let's start with the most obvious, Tom, emails.
Yeah, emails, phishing emails, business email compromise. It's a volume game, right? They'll send a very high number of volume of emails, hoping that you'll click on that link, which will then either download malware onto your computer or ask you to input your credit card details or banking details, et cetera, like that. For emails itself, you mentioned AI, and you couldn't be more correct. When I first hit the ground in my career, the fraud emails were very poorly done. The grammar was very poor. Like there were telltale signs on the language that was used, right? I think we've all gotten, there's a prince in Nigeria or somewhere else that for $10,000 he'll be able to unlock the family fortune. And they're very poorly designed, very poorly written. But now with AI, with ChatGPT, the level and quality of those contacts it looks and feels more authentic. And that authenticity is what fools people more often than not now. And so even more reason to, think fast and act slow is how we like to say it. So my mindset, my approach to this is they're all fraud. They're all fraud until proven otherwise. And so that's my bias, is to delete almost everything right away. I don't even read it. So
the thing with the phishing, Tom, is that I find they get lucky, right? So let's say you're dealing with PNC Bank.
Yeah.
You just happen to do a transaction with PNC Bank 2 minutes ago, right? And the bank's doing something for you. All of a sudden you get an email and look, it's from PNC Bank.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's late. It's 11 o'clock at night. You're tired. You click on that button because they got lucky, right? Tom, can you expand on that? They just caught you at even an intelligent person can be a victim of this, right?
Yeah, no question. And like I said, with the improvement in graphics and design, right, the emails will look exactly like the real legitimate email that you'll get from your financial institution. So there's no more like grainy images of Chase and it looks, kind of poor. Now it looks legitimate. Another thing, I mean, we could go down a couple different tangents. I'm going to try and stay close on the phishing part of this. But one of the big frauds we're seeing now that's really exploding is your PNC will contact you and say, we've noticed unusual activity on your account. We're from the safety department at PNC Bank. Please click this link to learn more information, or something along those lines. And of course, you just did a transaction with PNC Bank, so you're like, well, wait a minute. Clearly, this must be them because they got lucky. You click on the link, and now next thing you know, hey, confirm your password so we can ensure that this wasn't fraud. And a lot of people will get that sense of urgency, that fear, right? That adrenaline dump, like, oh my gosh, I have to go do something fast. And that's what they're relying on, is that you getting nervous or scared and doing something that you really shouldn't do.
And it used to be like, I thought a good rule, Tom, is that, first of all, if someone's calling you, that's very unusual, right? Most companies now, real companies, are going to contact you by your email address. But they should know something about you ahead of time that only the company would know, right? Like, they shouldn't be asking you to identify yourself. They should be telling you something. Can you run with that a little bit? But I don't also want to do it on the premise that there could be a hack and they may have that info. But for the most part, I think, can you go with that direction? How can people help themselves to maybe, how should they react? I don't want them to be afraid, Tom. If somebody calls, I don't want them to be afraid.
Yeah, they don't need to be afraid. But I would just say this, that anything that this individual who's contacted you provides you, sends you, gives you, whatever, you should all assume it's fraud until proven otherwise. And the way to prove otherwise is, hey, thank you very much for letting me know. Disconnect, do not interact, stop, and then independently contact your financial institution where you are the one calling them. Because call spoofing now, I know we're getting a little bit into the telephone world, but they can very easily spoof Bank of America on the call line so when you look at your phone, you're like, oh, this must be legitimate. It looks like Bank of America. It looks like what you would expect it to be, but in fact, it's just another way to fool you into thinking they're legitimate. So again, hey, thanks for the call. Thanks for letting me know. Disconnect, independently contact your bank, and then ask them what's going on.
I think people feel like it's rude too. Believe me, I'm the rudest person on planet Earth. Anybody emails or contacts me, I'm immediately going to contact them back through a well-established number. Let me run a scenario 3 times. I want to make sure people feel comfortable with it, right? Hi. I wish I had a ringing sound effect. Whitney, why didn't I bring a ringing sound effect? Hi, Tom. This is the bank, and there's a problem with your account. What's the first thing that you would do, Tom?
I'd be like, okay, can you tell me which account we're talking about?
It's the checking account, Tom.
Okay. Can you give me the last 4 of the checking account number?
Well, let's say I get lucky. Well, I'm only allowed to give you 2, Tom. Company policy. So it's 32 is the last. And this is where they get lucky, right, Tom?
Yeah.
They're making a lot of calls. They got a 1 to 100 chance. Go ahead.
And don't forget, they could very easily get that information elsewhere, right? They could steal my mail. They could get lucky for a check I've written, and they could see the account number there. And then, so then I'd be like, okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the call. Have a good day. And that would be the end of it. And I would hang up. And then
Also,
I would look on my own, assuming I'm on a secure network, a Wi-Fi network, I would look at my accounts. If I felt like anything was untoward, I think most folks have apps for their credit cards and banks now. I would get comfortable with the freeze your account app, tool or application, and freeze your account, and then I would contact them independently.
And just because they give you a name and you find their name on a website somewhere, forget it, right, Tom? It doesn't mean a god darn thing. Can you explain that to people? Because tell them what happens.
Yeah. The information's out there. I mean, they can know enough about you. They can learn a little bit about you. There's lots of ways. Go ahead, sir.
I was talking about impersonation of company. Can you run with that for me?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, I actually have a personal story if I could,
please
dive into that. So my father-in-law was the victim of one of these types of scams. Thankfully, he recovered everything. He moved very fast. But he did fall victim to it. And I won't say the name of the financial institution, but he received a spoofed call. It said financial institution on the call log. And so he picked up the phone, answered it. And they said, hey, we are noticing a wire transfer request for a large amount of money. And we just want to confirm that this was you. And of course, he didn't do it. And so he's like, oh, thanks for calling me. I appreciate you calling me. And they're like, while we have you on the phone, can you please confirm your password to make sure that this doesn't go through again? And so he was, very nervous. He was, essentially, he's a quite elderly man. So, and so he thought he was doing the right thing and confirmed this. And within, a matter of hours, they opened up a new line of credit at the exact same bank, and they tried to wire transfer out money. Again, all caught because he was smart enough at that point to stop, think it was so wrong, and disconnect. And then he was soon enough. But they had, in that little bit of time, that little bit of information he provided, they were able to move very quickly. And so, yes, they will impersonate anyone online. And like I said, you should just assume that if they're calling, you should assume that it's fake or fraudulent, and then verify independently is really the best way.
Right.
If I want to impersonate Dave Burns' law firm, I could take the identity of one of the attorneys, maybe currently working there, make another LinkedIn page, put my picture on there.
Absolutely, yeah.
You'll go to LinkedIn and you'll assume that I'm a legit attorney there, and I've taken the identity of one of the attorneys. Now, maybe you'll get the real attorney's page. I don't know. Maybe you won't. Who knows? It all depends what LinkedIn throws up there. Absolutely. That's so easily done. And I can make up a fake phone number for like $5 that says Dave's law firm's name, tell you to call me back. You think you're talking to somebody from the law firm, but you're not. You're not talking to somebody from the law firm. You need to call the law firm and talk to somebody use that phone number for the law firm that's the real law firm before you get into it.
Provide you, any number, any email, anything they provide you, you have to assume it's part of the scam.
Okay. Now, Whitney, in our industry in particular, a common tactic, I don't know if you've heard of this or not, but the insurance companies fill me in all the time. The people will call associations or contact them with fake invoices for well-known vendors. You could see that happening, right, Whitney? Have you ever seen it firsthand? But you could see the process happening, correct?
Yeah, I haven't had it happen firsthand. I mean, I've had the phishing emails where companies have sent me invoices, but thankfully I know what vendors I have and what vendors I don't have, so I know to delete it. But yes, I've absolutely heard of it happening.
But they are taking the identity of real vendors, Whitney. I had a case where an insurance person called me, and they had the manager had just gotten off the phone with a landscaping company. And what came in by coincidence? An invoice from the landscaping company. And they said, you got to send the money here. They sent the money there, and guess what? Gone. So easy it could happen, right?
It actually just happened here 2 days ago. I got an email from some company I didn't recognize, sent it over to the people here who said just delete it. And then not even 10 minutes later, the owner of that company emailed everyone and said that that person had been hacked and not to open any of the emails that were sent. Thankfully, I didn't even know who they were or what vendor they were with, but it literally happened like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Right, Tom.
We'll see this a lot when they recognize that you have a legitimate vendor. They'll do an account takeover or an imposter takeover, And then really a big red flag is, hey, this is overdue. You have to pay this right away, or there'll be late fees. They'll try and create some sort of artificial, need to go fast, or a sense of urgency to like, hey, you have to. This is overdue. How come you haven't paid this? Here's the new number for you to send it to. Any of those is a big red flag for an account takeover.
Well, and a lot of times that's why most management companies that I've experienced paid by check and not credit card, because we have to have your invoice. It has to be coded, and then we send you the check via your address that's on the invoice.
Man,
how does like all the, sorry to interrupt, how does all the, if at all, the like the Google surveillance, the like when you check something on your phone and then for 3 weeks later you get emails offering the system, or does that like drive traffic to someone who might be more susceptible to a scam because there's some Google search or some internet search that shows you're looking for personal loans or something? You know what I mean? Then you get like, does that stuff happen too?
I would imagine that there is some data collection that is, I wonder if, far be it from Google or other internet search providers from selling your information, but I wonder if that might be something to that. They might monetize that in a way, is those search results. But I'm not. I
read somewhere where a lot of criminals, that was a big thing with Facebook and things like that too. They don't want them selling their information to criminals. Walmart's one thing, but anybody can buy it. All right.
Yeah,
is it a fake profile?
Weird.
Is it a fake profile? Tom, I would say you got to call that number that is a real number.
Yeah.
You got to talk to that person at the bank is a real person. It's going to be hard to tell if it's a fake profile if you don't do that. Yeah. Do you agree?
And I just, absolutely. My default is fraud. Like I default to assuming that the caller is trying to defraud me. And so then, it's hard to get beat that way.
Yeah. If you think everyone's a criminal, which I do, unfortunately. And Tom, you do too, right? Based on your job, you do, right?
I do. Yeah. That's,
you have to be very.
Well, I do, because all I do
very suspicious.
Yeah.
All I do is live streams where I talk about horrible things that people do to other people. So I become super paranoid.
It's not a $1 million business by accident, right? It's because the volume is outstanding. It's out there.
Dave, I just wanted to touch upon this. Once again, if somebody does put your personal information out there and you work for a management company or an association directly, don't let it go. Put something in email and send it to your management company or your board. Do you agree, Dave?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Yeah.
Okay. Separate email accounts, Tom, should board members use separate email addresses for association business? This comes up all the time in our industry, Tom. I'm going to let you take it, and then I'm going to let Whitney and Dave drive it home. I think we're all going to be on the same page on this one.
Yeah, no question. It's a tiny little bit of extra effort, but the more separation you can have from your role, your job, and your personal life, the better it is.
Whitney, I'm going to say it. If you're a board member and you're using your personal email address for board business, you're not being very smart.
Nope.
Whitney, what do you?
And most management companies suggest you create a new account as well.
Dave, besides the fact that you're giving people your personal email addresses and they already know where you live and they can find out what car you drive and they can basically know a lot of things about you. There's another reason why, but don't get me too off track. But do you know what I'm looking at here for using your personal versus association?
Well, I mean, one of the things that comes up to me is a little off topic, I guess, but maybe this is what you're intimating, but it's really like a sort of a corporate collection of records. If you have your condominium's called, Ocean Center Condo, you should have a main name where it's like every board member gets a, D-Burn at Ocean Center Condo. And then that email is a corporate email. Board members come and go. The data there is corporate. It can get produced in litigation. It can get preserved. It can be tracked if someone's up to no good. Maybe that's what you're asking about. But I've often said that one of the issues we run into with lawsuits is individual board member communications are discoverable. They're relevant. It's a lot easier if you were able to say under oath, I only used my Ocean Center Condo email domain. I never used my Yahoo email. Therefore, I don't have to search it for your subpoena. I don't have to be questioned about it at my deposition. I'm telling you, I never used it for business. A judge will probably say it's good enough for me. Move on.
Yeah, otherwise you could have people looking at your personal emails. So if you want to
they don't-
totally mix your private personal business, I know I would be embarrassed because my wife's constantly texting me how wonderful I am.
You may have to produce in a real contentious litigation, you could have to produce your cell phone, and you might be able to cleanse it in some way, but it might force you to pay an expert. I mean, it's like when Tom Brady got in trouble all those years ago. He's like, I'm not giving you my cell phone. I don't care what's on it. Tom Brady doesn't give you his cell phone. You know what I mean? Like, there's just too much, board members don't need their cell phone to be given out to another lawyer to search. You know what I mean? It's very, very, very risky.
It's real easy. If you use the association email address, and Dave will agree or disagree, you can basically tell everybody, you know what? I never did one thing on my personal phone.
I agree.
Ever.
I agree.
And then you're basically going to be in the clear. But if you used your personal phone, they're going to have your records.
Even one time, they'll be able to search it.
Tom, MFA, multi-factor authentication. Man, I feel like this is changing all the time. Can you talk about it?
Annoying.
Sure. Yeah, it's well, I would say this. It is not a perfect solution to passwords and access to accounts, but I would say it is better than not having it. So I am a multi-factor authentication proponent. There are some things now that are out there that to be careful of. There are some crimes to defeat multi-factor. There's SIM swapping, right? Where they can take over your email account, assuming that your multi-factor authentication is a text to or an email to your email account or your phone, right? They can take your SIM card, get access to your SIM card, and take over. I don't want to get too far afield. Those are fairly complex criminal enterprises, not impossible, but I'd still rather have MFA than not.
Whitney, I'm going to go to Tom on this, and I think he's going to agree. For the most part, anybody could break into anything. Right? I assume the FBI, the CIA, but most criminals, they don't want to spend time trying to circumnavigate by multi-factor authentication. They'd rather go to the guy that doesn't have it. Yeah. So, Whitney, do you think Tom's going to agree that if you take these extra steps, most of the time, it's going to be good enough? They're going to move on to somebody else. It's like having a good lock on your house. Agree, Whitney, or disagree?
Yeah, I mean, I agree for the most part. I mean, here's the thing. If somebody wants to find you, they're going to find you. And, whether you have multi-factor authentication or something else, they're going to find you. But to that point, work cell phone, personal cell phone, I mean, would never turn my personal cell phone number over to an attorney for anything. That's why I have 2 cell phones.
You will if they tell you you're going to, Whitney.
But I agree with your point, though, Ray. I often use it. Young people won't remember this, but in the old days, we used to have a thing called the club. It was like that orange thing you put on your steering wheel, and it was supposed to keep people from being able to steal your car. And I always sort of tell clients, I use it as a metaphor for other types of things that come up, but that if you're looking to steal a car and you're walking down the street and one car has the windows locked, the doors are locked, and there's an orange thing on the steering wheel, but the next car has the keys in the ignition, the motor's running, and the windows are down, you still may want to steal the car with the club because it's nicer, but you probably can get away with the other one, and so you're probably going to take the other one. So, like, if you're the one person out of potential victims that has the little extra security, to the lame criminal, not to like the super diabolical mastermind that we see in movies. To the lame criminal, they're going to go with the easy guy as opposed to the more difficult one. An extra 1-2 step could drive a guy to another victim. It seems to me.
Tom, I really want you to push this because I feel very confident with multi-factor authentication. I think it's good enough. I think it's a pain in the neck to use it, but I'm on board with it. And I don't think most criminals are going to take the time to tackle that. Now, I know you're in the business of dealing with corporations and you got people out there that have the sophistication, but is it a fair statement for the average board member and manager, if you're doing multi-factor authentication, you just raise your protection level, I don't know if you want it 10 times. Can you run with it?
No, I'm right on there with you. I agree with you 100%. Multi-factor authentication hardens you against attack in many ways. It's not perfect, right? I think I listed a couple ways in which it can be defeated, but that's not like, to Dave's point, that's not the average criminal. That's a little more sophisticated group. I think your recommendation is strong, and all my family, I do the same thing. If you have MFA available, you should be using it. Otherwise, you're the easy target.
And it's getting easier to use. Trust me. So
yeah.
They're making it easier and easier. Tokens now and everything else.
Yep.
I think. Share documents safely. Tom, we could fly through this one. Can you just grab this one? I meant pretty obvious.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's. Are you referring to shared work documents amongst, or just?
Yeah, I meant associations, managers like Whitney. Give Tom some examples of confidential information you have about people. Like, you have to share
like
documents,
violation
right?
letters. Manager to manager communication, maybe owner to manager communication, stuff that like probably more so violation letters, architectural letters, things like that we have to save, and we have to save in their lot files or save directly, that sort of thing. Any correspondence really.
People's disability status, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you're privy to that, Whitney. You know
ADA
people's
compliance.
People's mental status. Sometimes somebody has a family member that is abusive. There's
Yep.
a lot of stuff that you have in that office that theoretically you don't want out there in the public realm.
Yeah.
Correct.
Tom, you got board members. They're not supposed to, but they're sending stuff to each other. You got managers sending stuff. You got stuff all over the place. What is the answer? What should associations be doing?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you want to handle these documents as carefully as possible. There are some very easy encryption, email encryption capabilities out there for a lot of the email services. If you have to email something like that, you might want to consider using that. It's already built into a lot of the email providers, so it's not something you have to purchase additional. And then also, just if you're emailing that type of information around, you want to make sure that your software is up to date, and just you want to be using all the common sense best practices for information security, right? So you want to make sure you have your laptops are up to date on their software updates. You want to make sure you have you name it, antivirus programs in place. You want to just be a little extra careful when you're having that. You want to make sure in the event that there is a leak, that it's not because of your lack of diligence.
All right, let me fly through a couple terms here just to get through them, because I want to make sure we leave time on other ways people can help themselves and protect themselves, Tom, and I want to make sure you have plenty of time to do that. Yeah. Protect yourself online harassment, fake profiles we spoke about, phishing, account takeovers is when someone takes over your account or someone else's and can use it. And Tom, you interrupt me here if you need to. Digital stalking, I think, would be almost a case of what Whitney was going through a little bit. Would you agree, Tom?
Yeah, and not only the digital stalking, using social media and using information to gather more information about you. It's not just you; it's the people that are close to you in your family unit or your friend unit. You may have all of your social media locked down and locked into private mode and all the recommendations that we're going to have. But if your children don't or your spouse doesn't, then it'll be very easy for someone to pivot and then gather that information through a loved one that you have a close connection to. And so it's not just you, it's your family as well. So that consideration needs to be thought about.
I guess that's a really good point, Tom. If you have a family member that's really loosey-goosey, you may want to take extra precautions to protect yourself, because your family member could be giving your information out to everybody.
Almost certainly. Like we'll do a lot of assessments for executives, and the executive they have absolutely perfect digital security, but their spouse is posting 30 times a day and has really poor information security. And so it's an awkward conversation, but we need to have it that, hey, you might want to reduce some of this stuff.
They're giving out, the spouse is giving out their social security number, giving out their address. Yeah. The guy's paying you a bundle for corporate security, and then in the meantime, his spouse is out there. Doxxing, we went over personal info online. It's out there. I know the audience doesn't believe it, Tom, but they just don't believe it. If I had time to go through, maybe we'll do that one day and we can figure it out. I think they'd be shocked at what we could find out about somebody. Me, no, I'm not even I'm not even like Tom. Public records, social media exposure, password managers. Where are we with that, Tom? I think eventually we're going to more of the other kind of, right?
Yeah, I mean, certainly passwords that like the traditional letters and numbers and icons. I mean, they're still out there. I think next time I'll bring the slide that how easy it is to defeat your password now with modern technology. And I think it's a little bit scary that if your password is less than 12 in length, that it'll take minutes to break your password. So. Yeah, so the technology is there, and it is it's scary, and I think that's why you had mentioned that the two-factor authentication is even more important now. Tokenization for passwords is the way to go. Password managers, I get this question a lot. It really depends on your personal preference on a lot of these things, but just remember, these password manager companies have been the victim of cyber activity and cyber hacks. I don't want to mention anyone in particular, but some of the biggest names in the industry have been hacked. So just bear in mind, if it's online, it's potentially gettable.
I've been using I use Apple products. I've been using the Apple generated super long passwords now. I couldn't tell you my passwords anymore. Yeah. I'm completely dependent, but I feel comfortable with it because they're super complex passwords. You're not going to guess it.
Well, then how do you remember how do you remember what they are when you need to use them?
I don't. I'm completely dependent now, 100%. I don't remember what they are. So, but they're so long. Go ahead, Whitney.
Yeah, you can copy and paste it. You just go to the passwords section in your iPhone and copy and paste it. You don't have to remember anything.
But I don't even want to do that, Whitney, because if somebody breaks in my house or something, I don't want them to have that. I just rely on it. And then, look, I can always reset it.
But and then so every time you need to use it, you just reset it. You don't write it down or anything.
It automatically loads. I think, yeah, right.
It automatically loads.
Yeah.
And then also, Tom, for my company, I spent a lot of money on an email company that offers a lot of security. I don't think you want to talk about that because your email is the gateway to everything nowadays. So I don't know why management companies and boards aren't investing. I don't know why they're using, I know Gmail is actually pretty good with security, but I don't know why they're not investing in an email company. Can you talk that a little bit?
There are some email organizations and companies that have built-in fraud detection tools that will highlight and quarantine emails that look suspicious. And that's really good. And that's especially for phishing. A lot of times that a lot of these service providers will tell you, hey, look, this looks suspicious because the link within it is suspicious. And so, where and when you have the ability to do that, it's not tremendously expensive. I know you said there is some cost to it, but it can help remove the human element, which is what the bad guys rely on so much. Let the technology work for you for once.
Secure Wi-Fi. I was on the plane just last night, actually, and I was using the Wi-Fi on the plane, but I was using it to watch Instagram and YouTube videos. I wasn't like logging the Charles Schwab on the American Airlines flight. Tom, can you talk about that?
Yeah, no question. Secure Wi-Fi is critically important for a lot of different reasons. Anytime you look, sometimes in life you have to connect to open kind of public Wi-Fi, right? It happens. You're in a hotel, they have like you're in an area where you're not getting great cell reception or whatever it might be, and you need to connect to the hotel Wi-Fi. Just bear in mind that is low-hanging fruit from a safety and security standpoint, right? Like when you're on open Wi-Fi like that, I heard this said the other day, and I really like it, is if you're on an open Wi-Fi network, imagine everything you're sending is a postcard. Right, that can be read by everybody in between, that gets in between you and the recipient.
How do you communicate in a hotel when you're trying to work? I mean, how do you get Wi-Fi then?
Well, the Wi-Fi is connecting, but my recommendation would be to get a virtual private network. Purchase a virtual private network that can be turned on and off. And so I will connect to, let's say, Marriott Hotel, and then I will turn my VPN on, and then that is an extra layer of protection. And so a VPN for, just at a very high level. I'm not super duper technical, but it encrypts the traffic on the beginning, and then it sends it encrypted, and then only the person on the other end can get it open. Again, that's a very layman's explanation. Please don't come at me for the technology. Just bear in mind.
It's a portable hotspot.
I'm sorry,
Tom. Why not just tell
a portable hotspot?
Right. What do you say, Tom? Because I use a portable hotspot. I travel with that. I don't use public Wi-Fi or hotel Wi-Fi.
That's your own virtual VPN then. Yep. So you're connecting through that. That's your own network. So yes, you'll get many, if not all of those safety features We're just talking about going direct to, the airport Wi-Fi, et cetera. And those are big no-nos. And certainly if you have to go on them, and we all do occasionally, then I wouldn't do any banking, to Ray's point. I wouldn't do any sensitive information. And then honestly, when I get back onto my home Wi-Fi network, I would consider changing my password, because it got scooped up, no question. Somewhere it got scooped up. So
Interesting.
All right, so let's watch our time, and I want to get into this really, really quick. So we basically hit a lot of key points there. Let's talk about when something happens. Let's do the legal part first, Dave. What is the obligation? I am a manager, I'm a board member, and I have been hacked. Do I have any kind of obligation to take action? What should be the action? And keep an eye on our time, Dave, too.
And I'll say it real quick. There's this in some ways is a statutory consideration, both federal and state. There are laws, like state laws, and about how you deal with breaches, how you when owners are allowed to see corporate banking records, are allowed to see association bank records. There are laws about whether you have to black out the account numbers and people's names, stuff like that. So there are laws that govern sort of how you control your data and private information. But it's really a statutory, legal, state by state thing. You have to check it.
Dave, here's the quick question though. You believe you've been the victim. You believe the association's been a victim. What? I know it's obvious. What should a manager or board member do? Just forget about it.
I don't. No, I'm saying I think you have to check. I think you have to check with your statutes. I think there are specific statutory requirements when you're aware of a data breach. I think there are things you have to research, because there may actually be statutory obligations on your part to tell your owners and things like that. Right. And there may be laws like that.
If you're a manager, contact your management company at the very least. If you're a board member, contact your legal counsel or someone, or your insurance company or something. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
right.
If a management company has its own breach, like on a management company level, that's something a management company has to deal with corporate counsel wise for its lawyers. But statutorily, it may have to tell all of its clients that this happened.
Right.
On an HOA condominium basis on a lower level, then yeah, it would have to be, association counsel. But every state has specific laws as to what you have to do when you're aware of a data breach.
Whitney, I'm so glad you brought up that personal story and experience you had. It sounds like you did everything right. It sounds like you reported it immediately, correct?
I did. Yeah, because my management company, the good thing about it was the management company was supportive of it and did everything that they needed to do on their end, because as managers, we're very vulnerable a lot of times to a lot of things. I get talked about on Facebook probably on a consistent daily basis. If you've got your management company support and your board support, I think it can go really, really well. It's just, you've got to get that support behind you. But it did suck. It sucked for a while.
I'm happy, Whitney, that you felt you deserve attention to that matter. You weren't a manager that just said it comes with the territory. It definitely didn't. But managers have a right not to put up with this stuff. And I'm so happy that you took action on it.
Yeah.
I also had really small children. So I think I was looking at it more along those lines than if it was just my husband and I. But, I had small sleeping children when they knocked on my door that, I was not going to let it go. I also have a husband who wouldn't have let it go either. So
don't get me wrong. If you're knocking on my door, that's a problem. All right, Tom, take us out of this segment.
Yeah. So we covered a lot of ground, and just a couple takeaways at the end of this, right? Is when it comes from a fraud standpoint, they're relying on you to participate in some way. So they need to fool you. They need to convince you that there's a sense of urgency, whether they're calling you, emailing you, texting you for those unpaid road tolls from New York that you need to click on this link and pay now. Regardless of how they're contacting you, they need to fool you in some way. And so have a high index of suspicion. You get unsolicited contacts about financial things. And then the second point I would make is from a safety and security manner, really police yourself in many ways about how and what information you're putting out in the world, because it can and will be used against you.
And two things. Tom never does a pitch for himself here, but you want to contact a company like Tom's also if you can, and he can help you go through it. If you have a lot of assets in your target, it's probably worth the investment to make sure you're covered. You're going to learn stuff that you didn't even know. Tom's going to think about it. But you know what, Tom? I love it. You said something. In order for fraud, I rephrase it. In order for fraud to work, you need to be part of it.
That's correct.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody. Sorry, Whitney, first time here. We didn't have a lot of management stuff, but thank you so much
No
for sharing
worries.
your story. Dave, I always appreciate you being here, but I'm sure you want to get back to the rescue and do some more dog petting and puppy playing.
That's all. That's the only work that matters.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.